All right, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back into Mining Stock Daily. Kind of a busy day here of corporate updates as we begin to wrap up the week and a new referred gold market. So we're going to talk about precious metals equities with our friends down in Colombia with Collective Mining. They do trade now on the Nasdaq and also on the TSX with the symbol CNL. Happy to welcome in our friend Ari Sussman from the company once again. Ari, the Nasdaq upgrade from the NYSE. Give us a reason why this was kind of an important kind of checkpoint for the company.
NYSE American, not full board NYSE. So we moved up. It's really the equivalent for Canadians of going from the TSX Venture to the TSX. We chose Nasdaq over NYSE main board because, frankly, the exchange offered us more freebies and goodies for doing it, and its annual fee is slightly less, believe it or not, than the NYSE. So we went Nasdaq, and we're happy to be there, and think we'll see some increased liquidity. And really, one of our goals, at least from a stock perspective, is to see if we can get ourselves listed in one of the Russell indexes. Maybe later this year. If not, it'll be the next round in 2027. They rebalance, like large rebalances twice a year. So that's really the granddaddy of them all. That's a much better index to get included into than any of the other metal-focused index in terms of volume, because the Russell 2000, if you get in, could buy, almost 10% of your float type of number. It's big.
Right. We've seen a couple of our partners get included into the Russell that had big buying. It's been fascinating to watch. I always thought the Nasdaq was like the most expensive, so I'm actually pretty surprised and pleased to hear that it's cheaper than the NYSE board. So that's I always thought the Nasdaq was most expensive.
Trevor, the amount of freebie things they throw in is unbelievable. Like full investor relations services, like free press releases for 4 years.
Wow,
that's a big cost. For your listeners, like to have a press release, Newswire service, costs between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, depending on how active you are with press releases. It's big money.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're going to get into the latest developments of what's going on with Guayabales, but I think it is important. I want to talk big picture of what's happening, in Colombia. A lot of capital flowing in there. Colombia is doing really well. I think people are really excited about the new president, Espriella, who's came into office. I'm looking at the Colombia ETF, and that makes every week like a relatively new high. So capital's flowing. What are some of kind of the policies that are not only beneficial for the company, but really the mining sector all around that has got people really excited?
So pro-responsible development. This is a capitalistic government that has come in. I would qualify Abelardo. People can't pronounce De La Espriella very well, so let's go with Abelardo, his first name, President Abelardo, as a cross between Bukele in El Salvador and Milei in Argentina. So the economics of Milei and the tough on crime stance, of Bukele. And I think this is a perfect mix for Colombia. And the message has been clear. I mean, they only came in slightly less than 2 weeks ago, and it's growth. Like, we have a big debt problem. We need projects to move quickly. Where are we going to find those revenue streams and those employment opportunities for the citizens? And mining is definitely right in the center of that mix. So it's going to be a good 4 years. I expect it anyways to be a good 4 years. Not that it was bad the last 4 years, but it was a more socialistic approach to government, and this is very capitalistic and pro-growth. So, sweet spot for Colombia, and I think, as the year progresses, or 2 years to 4 year term, we're going to hear more and more about the attractiveness of Colombia for developers, explorers, and for producers, that want to come in and grow in the country. Because, remember, Colombia, oldest democracy in South America. Okay, only country, no military coups, none of this history. It's always been every 4 years free election, and it, other than maybe Chile, I would say it has the best rule of law. I mean, its government is set up similar to ours here in the United States. right? It works. Good check and balances between states, and foreigners have been investing big money in the country forever, and legally very strongly protected. So this is a great place to be, and I think there's going to see a bevy of explorers start to come in. We'll see little juniors start to pop up over the next few months. I don't know who yet, but picking up ground, and we're hopefully the forefront leader. Well, we are, of the development stage in the country.
Yeah. Ari, you and I have chatted for a number of years, and I think one of the conversations that has always stuck with me since not only I had become a shareholder of Collective, but just having a professional relationship with you and your team, is the idea that when things need to get built or permitted in Colombia, there will be a window of time where that is open, and then potentially there'll be a window of time where that opportunity will be closed. This really feels like the early days of an open window to really go gung-ho with project development, permitting, and a final construction decision. 2 weeks into a 4-year term, Ari, is this the beginning of that window?
Bingo, Trevor. It is. Okay. And we are going to capitalize on that window. That is our intent. So, what you're going to see coming from us, okay, in September, I don't know a date yet. Our QP's working on it. We're going to announce our maiden resource estimate for Guayabalas for the Apollo system. Okay, that's going to come in September. Why are we doing that? Because we're going to accelerate licensing of the project as fast as possible. Okay, our goal is to submit a license for the project in H2 of 2027. Okay, to remind your listeners, it takes pretty much maximum a year to license a project in Colombia. Best case, kind of 8 or 9 months, realistically about 11 to 12. So that would put us, if all goes well, into a licensed project scenario by late 2028. You have a 4-year term. The president has a 4-year term. That means he will run till 2030, and we could, in theory, be at least in full-blown construction during his term. And everyone knows in the mining business that construction employs more people than production. In LATAM, you tend to overhire because labor is cheaper. So, my last project, Continental Gold, Buritica Mine, I think at peak employment, we had close to 5,000 people working between contractors and employees. So we're going to be at the forefront of that, and we intend to push this mine, and that's a good place to be, and let's move quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the first resource, we've been waiting for a long time for this. This is huge. That's going to be a huge update. So obviously we'll be waiting for that. So in a month's time, maybe,
Yes.
we're going to see what those numbers actually look like. What about economics on this project? Will you be, what's that 1 year? Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so our planning is as follows with rough timelines. Okay, the resource is definitely coming in September. Whether it's the beginning or the middle or the end, I don't know yet. The independent QP is doing the work. The project for 43101 or these compliant categories isn't ready in terms of where the ounces are for a mine plan. So even a PEA doesn't make sense because I can't say too much at this point till the resource comes out, but we envision mining 2 areas of the Apollo system: the surface top of the system and ramp. Okay, the problem with the maiden resource is going to be not too many ounces yet in ramp because of the lack of drilling. Ramp is growing very big, very fast. So the thinking is as follows: resource now, resource late 2027, follow-up resource. That would then be the basis for a PEA, and then directly into FS. Right. So let's play the timeline of this project out. Okay, so if we can get licensed by late 2028, that would be roughly a similar timeline that we could deliver an FS, a feasibility study for the project, and then we're going out to raise money and build in 2029. We could be in build mode. Okay, that's very attractive. When I look out at our peer group companies, the peer group are those with medium or large gold deposits. I don't know if anyone could replicate that timeline in terms of getting permitted in construction. So it puts us at the forefront. The one I had that could move faster than us got taken out, which was G2. Gold, which is now part of G Mining. They closed that transaction. So
Right.
we're pushing very hard. The 43-101 studies will come out as the permitting's progressing. This is not abnormal. Remember, there's a legal system for permitting in Colombia, which is not Canadian 43-101. It's Colombian's own version, so we follow that in Colombia, but we do our studies to put project economics around this. But we do envision, I don't know which year, mining the top and ramp simultaneously, and I think we will ultimately see big ounces on an annual basis coming out of this project. Really, really world-class in terms of what it might produce.
Yeah. All right. Well, first off, we're going to see the resource. You've done a tremendous amount of drilling, Ari. Are there expectations that we see additional ounces other than inferred? Will we see M&I?
You will not see M, but you will definitely see indicated. Okay. What percentage, I don't know, but where you will see indicated is, let's break Apollo down into 3 sections. Okay. Shallow, top 500 meters from surface, 500 to 1,000, and then ramp, which starts at 1,000 meters below surface and keeps going down. You will see the indicated sitting in that top 500 meters. Right? Makes sense because surface rigs, that's the shortest distance to drill, so that's where the most meters are. The middle section is actually poorly drilled. You'll see ounces there, believe me, you'll see some ounces, and ramp is just really a new thing. I mean, you see in our corporate presentation and press releases on drilling, we have this donut shape of the breccia, this circular shape. It's only been drilled with assays of maybe 22 or 23% of the circumference. I don't have the answer yet what percentage of that total circumference makes the resource, but it's going to be 20% max laterally or in a circumference. Vertically, the thing's growing at depth. I don't, so maybe we'll go down the resource. We'll test 400 meters vertical of ramp with very sparse drilling. We have visual holes down to about 800, almost 800 meters below the top of ramp to the deepest potential intercept. There's a lot of good-looking holes, that are just finished drilling or being drilled during the lab. So stay tuned. We're going to be really news heavy post-resource announcement in September. And the key on the resource is whatever the number is, I can't comment, but it's just a step because the system's growing and growing fast from that point.
Well, and that's what makes the exploration adit into ramp so important. That was the latest news here this week. The almost 2 kilometer switchback road to access the beginning of that adit is being complete, so that's huge. Everything's on track to commence the development of that. It sounds like Q4 or early 2027.
Q4.
Is that right?
No,
Q4.
We will be advancing with the tunnel or the adit in Q4,
Okay.
the exploration adit. The box cut and portal will be starting obviously before that. They get complete, and then you start advancing underground. If you dig into that press release, obviously it's a little more speculative, but man, are we right at Trap? Like this is, we'll be drilling a greenfield target called, Trap East, which is named a Trap East, simple. In Q1 of 2027, I mean, we'll have a drill bay cut out pretty close to the entrance, maybe a couple hundred meters, from the entrance of the portal, the underground adit. And then we'll be at the Trap main zone, by middle of next year. And if you look at the map we produced, we had 2 drill pads in Trap a couple of years ago that are sitting effectively right on line with where the tunnel is. And, it's more of a narrower vein system in that location of Trap, but we did drill 2 meters at 234 grams per ton. We'll be able to almost touch that from the underground exploration adit, right? So high expectations. And why I like this is because I'm hoping that we find a lot more at Trap. I do think it's a multi-million ounce target. I mean, I know it is a multi-million ounce target, and I can envision that we'll have a working front for underground mining from Trap to go alongside with Apollo. And how good is that going to be to fill the mill when you have a separate area to be mining underground to add complementary ounces to the Apollo system? Right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's very awesome. I mean, now that you're going to be starting that underground development, Ari, talk about, had to go out and hire any underground mining expertise? Any
Oh
sort of
yeah.
personnel to and what did that look like? What is is it added G&A because of it?
Well, we had already staffed. No, it's small. It's a small G&A internally, but we're using a third party contractor to do the tunneling.
Okay.
Okay, it's someone we've worked with in the past. So it was already budgeted. I mean, we went for budget this year. It wasn't a surprise that we were doing this. It was in the budget, and so $5 million of our budget for this year is allocated to the tunnel. Next year it will be more. I don't have that number yet, but my guess, it's a guess, because until you actually start tunneling underground, the costs are a guess versus reality. I bet you the tunnel to get to Apollo is going to cost $30 million.
Mhm.
Okay, so it will take 2027 and 2028. Okay, to get
Yeah.
there. So 12 million next year ish, 18 million the year after, something, like that. Would be rough numbers in terms of what it will cost because it will get faster as you get more advanced.
Right. I think that it's interesting. I would recommend everybody who's listening to this go back to that last news release, and there's a great image of that exploration adit and what a potential future mine infrastructure looks like. You mentioned it goes through Trap, but before it even gets to Apollo, Ari, it has to also go through Plutus, which is quite interesting. So, I mean, it's like the world's your oyster with a potential mine plan, and depending on the development of this adit through into the ramp zone where it's eventually going to end up. But what it happens between that portal and Apollo is still kind of yet to be seen. I mean, that could be some real blue sky potential.
I would be shocked if we don't run into something, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not predicting this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we find another discovery, make another significant discovery on the way. There has never been any exploration zero between Trap and Plutus. It's not because the surface is less prospective. It's just we can't be everywhere at once doing work. And so what happens between Trap and Plutus? Plutus is very poorly drilled. Okay, but we
Mhm.
did discover a breccia body at Plutus, right? And there's some pretty decent intercepts into it, right? Like 100 to 200 meter intercepts at north of a gram into Plutus. So that's going to be nice to go look at that after we get past Trap from underground. And look, having done underground development for exploration in the past at Continental Gold, it tends to become a case of where you slap your forehead and say, "Oh, this was so obvious. Why didn't we see this from surface drilling?" Right? So we're gonna find some things, and there'll be some good metal under there, and I can't wait to get moving. What I can tell you is the first 100 meters will be bad. Okay, it's not going to look good. We've done the condemnation drilling, so fortunately, you don't really want to have metal there because you have a tunnel there. So, but the first 100 meters is dead. But that's good. And then and the nice thing also, the last point to mention is where this exploration adit is beside where we envision building the future mine. So this will eventually be widened, and once we get licensed, we'll in the future turn into a haulage line, for ramp material to come out to a
Yeah.
processing plant.
Right. On top of the technical aspects and development, man, I'm really excited. A month from, or hopefully a month from now, we get that resource estimate. I've been, as you know, Ari, I've been waiting patiently for those numbers. Um, However, the social license here has also kind of been really important to take note of. The way you interact with the community and called us, but obviously we all know of the this unfortunate incident of the earthquake there in Western Colombia. You did put out news that the company is in assistance to provide any sort of help where it can. But also on top of that, you did an interesting solar energy initiative with the local communities as well. Kind of, we don't need to go into great detail unless you'd like to, but talk us about that social community relationship right now. It seems like it's probably maybe stronger now than it ever has been, even 3 years since I've been there on the ground.
It's maturing, right?
Sure.
It's the hardest point. The hardest thing to do is to build trust with communities, and your goal as a company is to become the community. You're part of it, right? Not some gringo that's come in as a third party and throwing money around to try and buy support. And so we arrived as the outsider, and I would say we're now part of the insiders, right, of that community. The earthquake is devastating. We as a company, must have had horseshoes hanging off of the rooftops of our facilities, because somehow we got very lucky. We had no injuries. We had no damage corporately. We did have 4 employees whose personal homes were not destroyed, but were condemned post-earthquake by engineers saying not safe. So we are
Mm.
assisting them. But I don't know why. Somehow Supia, the town we're based in, Marmato next door, even though they are closer than the large cities nearby, they didn't get hit very hard. Right,
Interesting.
they were closer
Yeah.
to the epicenter, so it was just, maybe it was the topography, and the one miracle of this earthquake, that not that there's anything good about it, but it was deep, right? If it was shallow,
Mm.
the devastation would have been far, far worse than it actually was, but it's bad, don't get me wrong. Manizales, where we're contributing, which is the largest city, in Caldas, it's just under 1 million people. It got hit pretty bad, and that
Mm.
is where our efforts are going. Like, more than half our employees are from Manizales.
It's okay. Well, heart goes out to them. Hopefully, get through this and kind of move on and you know, everybody. Nothing more happens. Let's just say that. But I appreciate your time. Everything, obviously, you do for the communities. I think people are very grateful for that. Ari, appreciate you and I, or somebody from Collective. We're going to chat here maybe a month's time. Huge news on the horizon. I would say almost imminent. Look forward to having that conversation, because it's potentially going to be a catalyst for the next move in Collective.
It's going to be the first of hopefully lots, right? So we're excited.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Trevor.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. That's Collective Mining, everybody. Again, trading on the Nasdaq and the TSX with the symbol CNL. The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.